day one yesterday was a huge grind for players to get through, and you know, anybody who's able to make it through day one and come to day two and do well is really someone who's definitely worthy of the World Championship title. But you know, Markus, we've seen him in the top 4 of Worlds last year. We've seen him all around this past season, even behind the commentary desk a couple of times, I think.
Absolutely.
So you know, he's definitely an experienced player. He's not someone that you want to see so early on here in day 2. And even though he wasn't playing yesterday for his invitation to compete today, I think he's definitely a force to be contended with.
Some people consider Markus one of the greatest players to have not been able to win a world championship. You know, he's had multiple national championship title belts that he's won. I mean, in the international championships just recently, this entire season he's had good results in the international championships. Last year coming off a top 4 world championship run where unfortunately he got paired up versus his best friend Wolf Glick. Anyways, we're ready to jump now into the match. We got interesting teams here. Markus on your left, Ryuzaburo on your right, running Gyarados. Markus is running Gyarados, Slowking, Lucario, Marowak in its Alolan form, Alolan Persian, and Tapu Bulu on the right side. Ryuzaburo running Tapu Koko, Snorlax, Raichu in its Alolan form, Ninetales in its Alolan form, Garchomp, and Mimikyu.
Wow, so I think last round we had teams that were very safe picks, teams that had been doing very well throughout the year, and this is just something completely different. On Markus's side of the field, we have that Lucario, we have that Alolan Marowak, the Alolan Persian, the Tapu Bulu, the Slowking, the Gyarados. You know, I don't think any of those Pokemon has really made a consistent appearance at any of the international level tournaments and possibly even any of the regional tournaments. I know Tapu Bulu has a couple of regional wins, I think, under its belt, but that's really it. On Ryu's side of the field, you know, that Tapu Koko, the Snorlax, the Garchomp, all very consistent Pokemon. Alolan Ninetales there to help out with that Aurora Veil, maybe possibly some speed control with the Icy Wind. What I'm really curious to see is how he's going to utilize that Mimikyu and how he's going to utilize the Alolan Raichu. We saw towards the end of yesterday an Alolan Raichu with Fake Out Encore, the Stoked Surge Surfer Z move that was able to do so much damage and paralyze one of the Pokemon on the opposing side of the field. He certainly has decided to bring options.
Yeah, and actually yesterday we saw Lucario on stream piloted by American Alex Underhill. You know, Lucario is a cool Pokemon. Fighting type is a very good attacking type, and of course it's one of the few Pokemon in this format that get access to Follow Me. Ready to get underway here. Game 1 of round 2 of day 2 of the World Championships between these two amazing players. Alolan Persian and Gyarados are the leads that Markus decides to go with, and Ryuzaburo running the Mimikyu and Ninetales.
So Markus deciding to go with a pretty classic combination in terms of a lead. You have a Pokemon that can learn Fake Out paired with an Intimidate to weaken the attacking potential of the Pokemon on the opposing side of the field. Whereas Ryuzaburo, it looks like his team has a little bit of Trick Room potential here. Mimikyu certainly does not appreciate the Intimidate. It's possible that he might be trying to use Ninetales to get something like that Aurora Veil up, so then Mimikyu can use Trick Room, and then the Snorlax can take the field alongside of it to start, you know, boosting whatever stats it decides to boost, maybe with a Curse, maybe with a Stockpile, maybe that Belly Drum move, and just slowly make its way through Markus's team.
Here we go, getting ready to get started here. Persian using its Fake Out here. Gonna make Ninetales flinch and possibly break a Focus Sash if it's carrying it. And Gyarados, of course, using Taunt, a move that it gets to try to help support the team a little bit, as Mimikyu now cannot use Trick Room after that Taunt. So a very great turn 1 right there from Markus, breaking a potential Focus Sash and not allowing Ryuzaburo's to move at all.
It's very interesting that the Mimikyu on Ryuzaburo's side of the field does not hold that Mental Herb item. That could be an indication that this Mimikyu is either holding maybe a Focus Sash, as we saw, I believe, Wolf bring yesterday, or maybe it's holding one of those Z Crystals. Certainly a great read by Markus there to, you know, block the setup of the Aurora Veil with the Fake Out, block the setup of the Trick Room with that Taunt. So Ryuzaburo really needs to sort of adjust this turn. I think Mimikyu is probably safe to stay out on the field for a little bit longer. It does still have that Disguise up, and it can learn moves such as Play Rough to threaten the Persian.
Now Persian using Rain Dance here, going to take away any possibility of an Aurora Veil on Ryuzaburo's side, and of course that also boosts Gyarados' you know, powerful water type attacks. Ninetales though going on the offensive here, going for a Freeze Dry. That is going to be 4 times super effective against that Gyarados, but Gyarados barely hangs up but gets frozen. Gets frozen in its tracks, frozen in the sky, but, you know, Gyarados does get much away on its berry here in a pinch. Gonna heal back 50% right there with the Ayapapa berry. Mimikyu now using Shadow Claw, gonna connect onto Gyarados as well, doubling up into that Gyarados slot. Is Gyarados gonna be able to move? No, it is not. It is gonna go ahead and stay frozen.
Gyarados stays frozen, but it's also slower than the Mimikyu, which I find very interesting. If Ryuzaburo had gotten the Trick Room up earlier, that could have been an indication that the Gyarados would have moved first, at which point that Mimikyu might have been in a bad spot. So it's almost advantageous to Ryuzaburo that the Trick Room did not succeed. Now he's able to attack that Gyarados first with the Freeze Dry, maybe follow up with another Shadow Claw, though the Freeze Dry should be enough to get that knockout. I think it's great that Ryuzaburo did essentially ignore the Persian that turn, because Persian, outside of Fake Out, can't really deal that much damage to the Pokemon on Ryuzaburo's side of the field. Maybe a foul play into that Mimikyu could, you know, it would break the disguise and would probably bring it down within range of getting knocked out by the Gyarados, but overall, not the biggest threat for him to manage right now.
Gyarados now forces switch out, going to preserve it for just a little bit later as Marowak comes in, and it looks like, all right, well, it's going to be a Persian here is going to use Darkinium Z and going to go ahead and use its Z move right here. It is going to be a Z parting shot. Bye-bye Persian, going to go ahead and go away. Ninetales' attack drops, and so does its special attack drop as Persian retreats back to Markus's bench. So Z parting shot, cool move. Haven't seen that used much at all.
Haven't seen it used much at all, and it's a supportive use of the Z move. It will restore Markus's Alolan Persian's health, which could be interesting, but not the Persian, the Gyarados actually on the switch-in. So Gyarados able to stick around for a little bit longer, back at full health, will be able to intimidate that Mimikyu one more time, but still not a common move you see on that Persian.
Yep, and of course Gyarados is still frozen, which is Markus is gonna have to rely on it to thaw out. The Freeze Dry lands into that Marowak slot, not doing that much damage at all. And of course, that Shadow Claw, thanks to that Intimidate, not going to be doing that much damage to that Gyarados as well. The taunt does work also now. Mimikyu can start setting up Trick Room or do any sort of support moves, but that Marowak will be underspeeding everything on the field.
It will be, so I don't think Trick Room is really the play for Ryuzaburo, and I don't think we'll see it at all, you know, moving forwards, given how slow that Gyarados is as well. The Slowking on Markus's team, to me, indicates that he's very comfortable with the Trick Room option. So sometimes setting up Trick Room for your opponent's benefit is really not the best possible move. So Ryuzaburo, I think he should keep things at the current speed. I think he probably needs to start focusing down on that Marowak a little bit more, maybe with that Mimikyu, that Shadow Claw, get Ninetales out so it can bring Hail back to the field a little bit later. And Snorlax is a pretty great switch right now. Doesn't have to worry about the Intimidate, and if Marowak uses a Ghost-type move, doesn't have to worry about damage.
Gyarados going to switch out, going to still use that... all right, the Shadow Bone does go into that Snorlax slot, and Mimikyu now using this turn to set up a Trick Room to allow that Snorlax to start underspeeding things. Persian does come in, which means it gets Fake Out pressure, which is going to be useful in order for Markus to kind of fire that off and make something not be able to move. Of course, it will have to be that Snorlax slot.
It will have to be that Snorlax slot, but I don't know if you want to set up your Snorlax, you know, boosting its attack when you're staring down an Alolan Persian. I think other than Parting Shot, the move that Alolan Persian is most well known for is going to be that Foul Play, which uses your own attack against you, but this Snorlax clearly has its own agenda.
Yep, Snorlax now using Rock Slide here, going to hit both Marowak and Persian, as now Marowak goes for the Shadow Bone, going to hit onto Mimikyu and finally bust that disguise. One thing to note is if the Snorlax is a curse variant, that Foul Play will not be able to get boosted thanks to the defense boost from that curse. So if it's Belly Drum variant, then that might be a bit more problematic, as Mimikyu now going for a Never-Ending Nightmare using its Ghostinium Z here. It is going to be... Yep, there it is, the Never-Ending Nightmare. Going to be probably trying to KO this Marowak here. Going to do a good amount of damage since it is boosted from that Shadow Claw attack that we've seen already. And that is just such a cool animation that we rarely get to see. Marowak does get KO'd.
Yeah, Marowak being dragged down into and Never-Ending Nightmare for that knockout.
Ooh.
I'm more curious about what this Snorlax has planned. You never see Snorlax with Rock Slide, at least traditionally on, you know, this side of the world. you have to usually see the Snorlax spend a couple turns using Recycle, using Curse, using Belly Drum to sort of boost itself. Whereas this Snorlax, more than happy to go immediately for that Rock Slide, getting a flinch on that Persian right off the bat. Certainly has to worry about the Tapu Bulu, who's more than happy to use a move like Wood Hammer to get the boost from the grassy terrain to deal a ton of damage. But I don't think this Snorlax wants to set up. I think it wants to use Rock Slide under the Trick Room and let its buddy Mimikyu start dealing damage to help, you know, whittle down the field.
Yeah, but if you want to do that, then you do have to switch out that Mimikyu since it has been intimidated twice. So this is a really defensive team coming from Markus if you think about it. Tapu Bulu provides the grassy terrain. Z Parting Shot allows himself to heal his partner Pokemon, whatever switches in. And of course, Gyarados was holding that Eye of Papa Bear, which healed it back up so much. Now Tapu Bulu using Bulk Up after taking a powerful attack from that Snorlax here. Well, now Tapu Bulu is trying to set up, and of course, Tapu Bulu has pretty... Oh! The Will-O-Wisp dodged, or it missed that Tapu Bulu, and now the Persian using Foul Play on that Snorlax. The rain does stop, as now every Pokemon on the field gets some residual recovery thanks to that grassy terrain.
I really want to see what this Tapu Bulu is going to use moving forwards. Bulk Up is really interesting because it sort of counteracts the negatives to Tapu Bulu's only fighting type move that it knows, Superpower. So after you use a Superpower, your attack and your defense are dropped by 1 stage each. Bulk Up raises your attack and defense by 1 stage. So by using the Bulk Up that turn, Markus has essentially given himself a quote-unquote free Superpower to use against that Snorlax. It looks like Snorlax is sitting at about 75% of its health, and given how common of a Pokemon it is, I would be highly surprised if Markus hadn't run this damage calc in preparation to know, okay, if I do this, I can knock out that Snorlax before its berry activates. But Mimikyu apparently the bigger threat. Yep,
Mimikyu gets hit with a critical hit Horn Leech, and that's going to go ahead and allow Tapu Bulu to heal right back up thanks to you know, the attacks description and also from the grassy terrain. Now, well, Persian going to go ahead and switch back out, save that Fake Out support for later on. Going to go ahead and also drop the attack stat on that Snorlax as well. So again, that Parting Shot, it's really paying off huge dividends right there. And Markus was one of the pioneers of using that Alolan Persian, you know, with that Parting Shot, with that Fake Out support, with that Fur Coat ability. Now Gyarados comes in and drops Snorlax's attack yet again with another Intimidate. So even though this Gyarados is frozen, it's still doing so much work, just coming in, coming out, and coming back in for more Intimidate support.
Yeah, you can tell how comfortable Markus is with that Alolan Persian on his team. The synergy between switching the Persian out with Parting Shot, getting to drop both the attack and the special attack into a Pokemon with Intimidate to further drop the opposing Pokemon's attack by 1 stage is really making it easy for him to sort of whittle down the turns for Trick Room. Yes, Snorlax is going to be moving first, and yes, Snorlax could use more Rock Slides at this point if Ryuzaburo does not want to switch his Snorlax out to regain its attack for when it comes back, but that takes time. And with Trick Room on the field, you really want to keep, you know, making sure that whatever you're doing, you're whittling down that time so when it's over, you can start moving faster, you can start dealing damage, and you can start sort of cleaning up the game.
Yep, and of course that Bulk Up from a bit earlier, just paying off huge dividends as well. That Horn Leech did massive amounts of damage, boosted by the same type of attack bonus, and also boosted by that grassy terrain. Gyarados switching out again, just preserving it for later. Persian comes back in, getting that Fake Out support. I think Ninetales might be KO'd by a possible Horn Leech, but instead Ninetales now protects itself. That could also put Snorlax at threat if it doesn't... Oh, Snorlax now using Belly Drum. What a great time to have Persian in to be able to go for a possible foul play. And of course, Snorlax now maximizing its attack stat. 6 stages of increased attack, essentially 4 times that normal attack stat as it goes ahead and munches away on its Figgy Berry here. Tapu Bulu using Horn Leech in that Ninetales slot. So now, the Fake Out support is on the field, which puts Markus in decent position.
The Fake Out support is on the field, and Trick Room, I believe, only has 1 or 2 turns remaining. So using Fake Out on the Snorlax this turn, using Horn Leech to knock out the Ninetales. At that point, all you have to do is let the Twisted Dimensions return to normal and use Snorlax's own attack boost against it thanks to the foul play. And really, that's what makes Alolan Persian shine as a Pokemon. Or you could just let the Trick Room, you know, run out this turn. You don't even need to use Fake Out anymore. Just attack the Snorlax, hope that your Tapu Bulu survives the Ninetales Blizzard or Freeze Dry or whatever Ice type move it's bringing with it, and use Tapu Bulu to knock it out. Snorlax it's a great Pokemon, but if you're able to use its own sort of strengths against it, or even just force your opponent to give up the belly drum. That is huge in your favor.
Snorlax forced to switch out, does not want to get KO'd by that foul play. Gonna sacrifice his belly drum boost and switch in Tapu Koko as Tapu Bulu here protects. Gonna try to buy one turn of it surviving on the field. Persian going for that foul play, hitting into what was that Snorlax. Instead, Tapu Koko takes that way better thanks to its fairy typing. Ninetales using Blizzard, gonna go ahead and hit Persian on its weaker special defense side, and of course also trying to chip away at that Tapu Bulu, but Persian hangs on with about 40% as continually every Pokemon field is going to be chipped away. No more grassy terrain healing, which means that the hail will start slowly whittling away at every Pokemon that's not ice type.
Yes, so Tapu Bulu not going to benefit as much from those grass type move boosts either, so might not be able to even knock out the Ninetales with a Horn Leech, given the fact that the terrain is now present. Ninetales, even though that Snorlax is running sort of a different set than what we're expecting, I think the Blizzard Freeze Dry usually means it's something that we can anticipate. Persian happy to weaken that special attack, though, to try and give Tapu Bulu a chance to knock it out.
Yep, and here goes Persian right back into the bench of Markus. Gyarados is going to come in. Intimidate's not going to matter too much against Ninetales and this Tapu Koko. Of course, now the important part is that Ninetales' Blizzard might not be able to get the KO on the Tapu Bulu, and of course Tapu Bulu can just heal right back up with it Horn Leech. Tapu Koko now going for a Dazzling Gleam, going to connect on both Gyarados and Tapu Bulu. Tapu Bulu, of course, a lot less bulky on a special side. This Blizzard connects and should get the KO on Tapu Bulu. Oh! Bulu hangs on with just one hit point and eats away at its berry and heals back up. Such a bulky team here from Markus, and that Figgy Berry heals the Tapu Bulu right back up. Horn Leech connects onto Tapu Koko, picks up the KO, and Tapu Bulu, without that grassy terrain, still doing so much damage thanks to that bulk up from earlier, and heals right back up, and it will now for sure be able to hang on with yet another Blizzard.
Parting Shot is such a great move. I mean, it lowered Ninetales' special attack just enough for that Tapu Bulu to hold on, eat that berry, and then knock out the opposing Tapu Koko. With Snorlax on the field, it's still a little bit of an uphill battle. We know that Snorlax does not have a boosted attack anymore, which means that as soon as Persian does make a reappearance, it's only going to deal about maybe a quarter worth of damage to its health with Foul Play. So if Ryuzaburo were to, maybe double into that Tapu Bulu here, hope that Gyarados stays frozen so it can't do whatever it wants to do to support Markus and help him out here. That might be his best option moving forwards. But even though Markus has been essentially down a Pokemon this entire game, just the act of switching in and out that Gyarados with that Alolan Persian, it's working so well for him.
Absolutely, and this is, again, such a bulky team exhibited by Markus Stadter. Before this round, he actually had to face off against the Japanese national champion. He's very well aware of what the Japanese metagame is just like, and he's kind of playing very bulky here as Tapu Bulu protects itself. Gonna probably just try to sacrifice this Gyarados here to allow Persian come back in, but Gyarados, again, so bulky as well. Still frozen solid, not gonna be able to move at all. Snorlax going for the return, hitting in that Tapu Bulu protect, trying to pick up the KO there. Gyarados is hit by the hail, and of course that right there is the KO. So Gyarados, even though it got frozen essentially in the early stages of the game, it still came in, started intimidating, and now this Gyarados getting knocked out allows Markus a free switch in. Using that fake out pressure, the Persian will be able to definitely deal with that Snorlax if it tries to set up, and of course Tapu Bulu will be able to do so much damage to that Ninetales.
Yeah, Ryuzaburo, I think, needs to focus in on this Tapu Bulu if he wants to win this game. The Alolan Persian with the Foul Play won't be able to deal as much damage to Ninetales. If anything, it'll just remove the hail from the field after it's done with the Fake Out for this turn. If Ryuzaburo is able to knock out the Tapu Bulu, despite the fact that one of the Pokemon on his side of the field will not be moving this turn, I think he can pretty handily win this. So it's still very close, even though it looks like, Markus is in sort of the driver's seat in terms of how this match is progressing.
Ninetales now using Protect, not going to want to get KO'd just yet. Persian going for the fake out into that Ninetales slot, trying to make it flinch, but instead Tapu Bulu goes for the KO on to Ryuzaburo's Snorlax, and that is clearly enough to get the KO. A critical hit, not going to matter too much. Tapu Bulu's attack and defense drops are essentially null now.
Yeah, so I think Markus has a pretty easy play moving forwards in this game. He needs to use another Parting Shot and just hope that that Blizzard or Freeze Dry will not be enough to knock out the Tapu Bulu. Given the fact that Hail is gone from the field, it shouldn't do enough damage, and we know that without the Hail, the accuracy of that Blizzard will be lowered as well. So great job by Markus. He did an amazing job identifying and mitigating all of the threats on Ryuzaburo's side of the field, and yeah, that's just not enough damage, and no freeze either.
Yep, here comes the Horn Leech from the Tapu Bulu, doing about 50% to that Ninetales. Of course, now Blizzard outside of the hail is going to be not 100% accurate, and, well, Markus really played out to his outs. I mean, he found the win condition that he needed. He realized that turn, all right, let's get rid of the Snorlax, and then I'll deal with Ninetales on my own. And, you know, Markus is, again, dubbed one of the best players of all time, and you can exactly see what's going on here. Persian going for yet another parting shot on that Ninetales, dropping special attack stat, and Tapu Bulu should be able to seal the deal here. Freeze Dry connects onto Tapu Bulu. Is there going to be a freeze here? There is not a freeze. Oh, there is a freeze. Okay, all right. Tapu Bulu is frozen solid, and Tapu Bulu remains frozen solid. So that was Ryuzaburo's out, but Ninetales is going to have to do a lot of work considering special attack stat is dropped so much.
And it's going to keep dropping further. Persian, all it needs to do is keep clicking that parting shot button and hope that the Ninetales will be knocked out, that Tapu Bulu will thaw before it's able to get a critical hit on the Tapu Bulu with that freeze dry.
Yep, and here's another parting shot. Now Ninetales is dropped to 3 stages of decreased special attack, and here comes yet another Ninetales freeze dry here, gonna connect on to Tapu Bulu. Is Tapu Bulu gonna be able to throw out yet? No, not quite yet, still frozen, and now I believe it might be, well, it's going to change because Persian keeps dropping that special attack stat.
It really is. So again, a critical hit is exactly what Ryuzaburo is sort of fishing for right now. I think, though, going into Game 2, regardless of the outcome of this game, he's going to have to figure out a better way to handle this Alolan Persian. It's just done so much of meddling with his team's momentum overall. It takes something like a freeze, 2 freezes even, for him to be able to just handle the threat of not being able to deal so much damage because of that parting shot, because of the cycling of the Intimidates. Alolan Persian, it's a bulky Pokemon, so it's certainly something that he'll have to sort of build his team around to play better, but he has something like the Tapu Koko and the Alolan Raichu. We know that with the electric terrain, Alolan Raichu will move faster. He might just have to try something like that.
The attack won't drop anymore. Ninetales again going for the freeze dry. Tapu Bulu has to thaw out here. Tapu Bulu will maybe be able to hang on after one more, but Tapu Bulu is continuing to stay frozen solid. So now it's going to essentially come down to whether or not Tapu Bulu can survive and thaw out. The Persian does have access to foul play, but at the same time, you know, Ninetales does resist it, and Ninetales is not known as a physical attacker. And of course, you've also dropped its attack stat all the way to the bare minimum. Here we go. Persian now just going for the foul play. Gonna hit into that Ninetales, doing about 5 damage right there. Here's another freeze dry. It's gonna connect onto the Tapu Bulu. It should be enough to pick up the K. No, Tapu Bulu hangs on. Tapu Bulu stays frozen solid. Unfortunately for Markus Stadter, that Tapu Bulu is now gonna be getting KO'd because of the freeze, and that is so unfortunate for Markus. We thought he had it wrapped up in the bag, but that last second freeze.
And that's Pokemon for you, unfortunately. Sometimes you just get a bit of bad luck because of these freezes. But, you know, Ryuzaburo, he had to really rely on that being his out. Again, he didn't really have what he needed on his team to help manage the threat of this Persian, to stop it from using the parting shot to lower his attacker's, you know, damage potential. I really think going into Game 2, he needs to speed things up. He needs to counter Markus's very slow, very bulky game that he's been playing here with something a little bit more powerful. I really like the Alolan Raichu for this situation. Again, it can get a faster fake out. It can maybe use a Z move or some other large amount of damage onto that Persian right off the bat. But I don't know. Maybe Markus responds to that by bringing Trick Room of his own and playing that a little bit more aggressively.
Yep, and Persian continues to go for those foul plays. You know, if he can get maybe a string of critical hits, that could change the favor in his tide. But again, those freeze dries are doing about 13 damage each time. This one was 16 damage. So
creeping up
you'll
there.
have 2 more, but I just don't think that Ninetales is going to get KO'd with those foul plays. So unfortunate for Markus. And, you know, he had that so wrapped up for him, but that freeze by Ryuzaburo's Ninetales, you know, oh, so unfortunate. Persian now on its last leg of hit points here, and that should do it here in game one between these two amazing players. Persian again going for yet another foul play, not going to go out without a fight here. Ninetales, of course, hangs on, and here you go, another freeze dry. Ryuzaburo takes game one here between these two amazing players. You know, Markus still showing sportsmanship. He knows he has all the correct pieces. He just has to hope for a little bit better luck in the next game. All right, now, coming into game two, Markus had the setup.
He had the setup. And he did a good job playing to his outs. I know if you're at home, you might be wondering, well, why would you play out those last, 5-6 turns where it's just foul play, freeze dry, foul play, freeze dry? In this case, I think Markus probably was helping to run down the timer a little bit. We know that he's a very timer-conscious player. I mean, we saw it last round with Barris, one of his training buddies. He played the timer very well throughout that entire game. So sometimes just having it tick down just a couple more minutes can be crucial going into round 2, round 3, and seeing your opponent get those freezes and those outs, maybe you want to hope for a little bit of luck on your own and hope for that critical hit. But yes, moving into game 2, that Persian is definitely public enemy number 1 for Ryuzaburo. If you're Markus, I think you want to try and play a little bit more protective of it. Look at the possible counters that Ryuzaburo can bring into that game. We saw the Mimikyu from him last time. Not really the great matchup against that Persian. I'm not sure if we'll see the Mimikyu again. Maybe that guard chomp, maybe the Snorlax without those attack boosts that the Snorlax was going for, just to slowly whittle down that Persian's health before it's able to lock itself in a spot where all it needs to do is just press foul play or parting shot and just allow Markus again to keep cycling through everything.
Yep, and here we go, getting ready to get started in game 2 here between these two players. Markus Stadter on your left, and of course on your right, Ryuzaburo Hosono of Japan. Ryuzaburo coming off a day 1 victory, pretty much being able to qualify through that gauntlet of players from all around the world. Markus, he's had a very successful season all the way around. Now, Alolan Raichu and Snorlax are the leads that Ryuzaburo decides to go with. And of course, Markus going with his bread and butter, that Persian and that Gyarados. That Intimidate is going to go ahead and drop Snorlax's attack, but now we do know something about the Snorlax, and that is going to be a belly drum variant, and that it can easily wash away any sort of drops.
It's interesting that the Alolan Raichu made an appearance without his partner Tapu Koko on the field. Alolan Raichu requires the electric terrain in order to be able to outspeed that Persian, so might be an indication of what kind of Alolan Raichu Ryuzaburo decided to bring with him on his team. Maybe he doesn't want that speed right now, or maybe he was worried about the potential Tapu Bulu lead from Markus, being able to wipe out the electric terrain and leave Alolan Raichu in a spot where it has to switch out in order to start doing what it does best.
Persian now using its fake out, making Raichu flinch here. Now Gyarados using Taunt on that Snorlax to not allow it to set up. Snorlax now going for a Rock Slide here, probably trying to cover his bases, maybe expecting a Marowak to switch in place of that. In order to deal with that Raichu, does do significant damage to that Gyarados, but again, that Intimidate from earlier, right off the bat, huge.
Definitely. Snorlax, since it's taunted, probably won't be sticking around much longer. Great job by Markus there, sort of forcing Ryuzaburo to switch as he moves forward in this game. With the Intimidate setter out on the field, we probably will see Persian use its parting shot to allow Markus to get something a little bit more offensive alongside of that Gyarados. Maybe the Tapu Bulu? I can't see anything really that Ryuzaburo has revealed so far in this game that would threaten it from not being able to use that bulk up or not being able to otherwise start attacking the Pokemon on Ryuzaburo's side of the field. He has to worry a little bit about whether or not that Raichu has Encore, but for now, Snorlax is still the bigger threat.
Yep, here comes the parting shot. Going to go ahead and drop Snorlax's attack. I wouldn't be surprised to see that Marowak come in to be able to use its Lightning Rod ability and draw away any electric type attacks from that Gyarados. Of course, that parting shot hitting that Snorlax to drop its attack so that Rock Slide won't be doing that much damage. But here comes a speed swap from that Raichu. Okay, now they've switched speeds, and Gyarados using this turn to set up its Dragon Dance.
I was not expecting a speed swap from the Alolan Raichu, that's for sure. It's a really interesting play because Snorlax now is at, -2 attack thanks to that parting shot. It looks like it might have gotten a critical hit on that. No, it just still does a decent amount of damage to that Gyarados. So you know, it's a really interesting time to reveal that, because on the one hand, you don't want the Snorlax to be sticking around on the field too long while it's been intimidated so much. You don't want the Persian to come in and possibly continue to lower the attack further, but yet here we are. Raichu did swap its speed with the Snorlax, so maybe Ryuzaburo is taking a lesson from game one and just saying, you know what, I need luck to win this matchup, so I'm going to start, you know, seeing if I can get those flinches.
Playing around with speeds is something that we haven't seen with that new move introduced in these new games. Garchomp now going to switch in. Gyarados going for the waterfall here, going to hit into that Snorlax slot, but Snorlax is such a bulky Pokemon. It hangs on, and of course now, since it's so fast, with that Raichu speed, goes for another Rock Slide here. It is super effective on both Pokemon. It does activate Gyarados' berry that we saw earlier. It's going to be the Ayapapa berry. And, you know, Marowak flinches, can't move, and that's one thing now. This is a fast rock-sliding Snorlax. Things can flinch from Snorlax, not in Trick Room.
Things can flinch from Snorlax, and things can potentially flinch from that Garchomp as well. Might be a good time for Snorlax to try and rely on its buddy Garchomp to help clear the field for it, so it can use Belly Drum now to get its health back up. We haven't seen Snorlax consume any sort of berry quite yet, so could be a really good time, especially since Marowak is switching around.
Persian switching back in right now, gonna get Fake Out pressure and that parting shot pressure. Gyarados going for yet another waterfall, hitting in that Garchomp slot thanks to that Dragon Dance, still doing so much, about 50% right there. The Rough Skin does do some recoil back to that Gyarados, but here comes another Rock Slide from the Snorlax, gonna hit that Gyarados, and again, this is so strange for me to see this Snorlax go for this Garchomp, and here it is, a double Rock Slide here, hitting into Gyarados, gets the KO on that Gyarados, and Persian still not taking that much damage thanks to that Fur Coat ability. So this Snorlax is outspeeding the Garchomp, going for a Rock Slide, followed up by yet another Rock Slide from that Garchomp. As we've mentioned before, Rock Slide is one of the best moves in the game simply because it's a double target attack and also has that flinch chance. Here comes Tapu Bulu. Tapu Bulu now going to try to help Markus try to seal the deal here.
You know, if you would have told me this morning that we would see a Snorlax with Rock Slide here, outspeeding a Gyarados to attack, I would have been very surprised. Or not a Gyarados, but, you know, just be faster than that Garchomp. Tapu Bulu, it's going to want to probably go straight for that superpower into the Snorlax. I highly doubt Markus will want to keep the option of 2 Rock Slides against him as something that Ryuzaburo can use. So fake out one of these Pokemon and just hope that the other Pokemon will be knocked out, or go straight for the foul play into the Garchomp and hope that it knocks
gets
out.
KO. So huge foul play right there from that Persian, gets the KO on that Garchomp, and now, well, there's only one Pokemon Rock Sliding away. Snorlax instead going for a return here, going to try to KO this Tapu Bulu, but thanks to those Intimidates, thanks to those parting shots, Tapu Bulu instead also is just saying, hey, guess what? Time for me to set up, time for me to use Tapu Bulu to sweep. And of course, Persian still has access to its Darkinium Z to go for another Z parting shot as well.
It's really curious to me that the Snorlax went for the return there rather than go for another Rock Slide. You would think that at -2 attack, Snorlax's really its best utility in this situation would be to try and stop the Tapu Bulu from setting up. You know from game 1 that return wouldn't deal enough damage, even if you weren't intimidated, to get anywhere near a knockout. So relying on the 30% flinch rate from Rock Slide might have been your best play. I can't help but wonder, you know, maybe there's something Ryuzaburo has in the back that would appreciate having that chip damage on the Tapu Bulu so that it can't use the bulk up that it just got to use superpower and knock out that Snorlax. Ninetales can deal some damage to the Tapu Bulu. Right now, the Hail is still on the field, so Blizzard is an option, but Persian does have Rain Dance. So it's a really precarious position to be in again, and it almost feels like Ryuzaburo is just putting himself into these spots where he has to rely on just a little bit more luck than usual to try and maneuver his way out of it. Even though Markus is, you know, it looks like he's sort of at a disadvantage having the Tapu Bulu be slower than the Snorlax, who's faster than anybody could imagine a Snorlax to be.
Yep, and here comes that Z parting shot from that Alolan Persian. Oh boy, it's going to go ahead and heal whatever Pokemon, so that Marowak coming right back in, going to heal right back up, and also at the same time drop an attacking stat from one of these Pokemon. It is going to be that Ninetales to allow Tapu Bulu to deal with those Blizzards much, much better. And here it goes. Persian goes back. Marowak comes in. Marowak heals right back up. And now, well, this Tapu Bulu can heavily threaten a KO on that Snorlax or also do a lot of damage to that Ninetales. But of course, Marowak also has a very good matchup against the Ninetales as well. So good switch right here from Markus. Good use of that parting shot. Good use of, really setting up. And now Snorlax goes for a belly jump, but that could be punishable here from Markus' Tapu Bulu. Snorlax does maximize its attack, but it is going to heal right back up. But it should be in range for yet another superpower KO. So where is this Tapu Bulu going to hit into? Ninetales using Blizzard, going to connect thanks to the hail, making it absolutely 100% accurate. Hits Tapu Bulu, super effective damage. No freezes, no freezes. Tapu Bulu goes for a Horn Leech here. Going to hit into that Snorlax and do so much damage. Barely is enough to get the KO, so unfortunate miss of the KO right there, because now this is a fast belly drum Snorlax.
This is a fast belly drum Snorlax that will be knocked out by hail in one turn. So if Tapu Bulu and Alolan Marowak both know Protect...
It actually won't because of the grassy terrain.
Oh, right. Never mind. So with that grassy terrain, Snorlax buys itself a little bit more time. So Markus's terrain working against him, which is something you really have to keep in mind in situations like this. That Snorlax, that was such a risky play, I think, there, using the belly drum and just hoping that you can survive whatever attack Tapu Bulu throws out. If it had been the superpower, with the attack boost, I think that might have been enough to actually just flat out knock out that Snorlax. So it's still a really close game, and there's still a lot of ways that this Snorlax could be knocked out. We know the Persian's in the back. We know it has Fake Out. Fake Out is a priority move, and that will buy one turn of time for whatever Pokemon is alongside that Persian to knock out the Snorlax and then hopefully be able to deal with that Ninetales. So maybe Markus should just let the Alolan Marowak get knocked out by a Rock Slide here so Persian can come in and help him clean up.
Yep, and now Snorlax going for a very, very powerful Rock Slide. Gets the KO on Marowak, but that just means that Alolan Persian gets to come back in, threatened with a Fake Out, also threatened with a foul play because that, well, here comes an Aurora Veil, but, it's going to boost the defenses on Ryuzaburo's team for 5 turns, barring it holding a light clay. So yeah, Persian still outspeeds that Snorlax. That's one of the benefits of Persian outspeeding that Raichu from earlier, because that speed swap, it's not going to be cutting it just quite.
It's not going to be cutting it just quite at all. But again, the novelty of a fast Snorlax is something that should not be left uncongratulated, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. But yeah, it's not really about speed right now. It's about Fake Out. If the Snorlax can't stop that Fake Out, it's not really looking at surviving this turn. And then it's going to be down to Ryuzaburo's last Pokemon along with the Ninetales. I don't think he should count on Snorlax being able to survive the turn unless he's saving something like a Protect that we haven't seen yet. Probably switch the Ninetales out, have it come back in at, full special attack the next turn so that it can threaten that Tapu Bulu instead of being, at minus, I believe, 2 it would be after another parting shot. But again, this is Pokemon. Anything can happen. And if Markus tries to maybe play a little bit smart here and go immediately for the foul play into the Snorlax, that'll knock it out too.
Yep, that gets the KO. And of course, I've heard of speed creep, but this is just kind of a bit much in terms of speed creep with that Snorlax using speed swap. Finally gets KO'd, and this Blizzard hits both Persian and Tapu Bulu.
Oh,
Tapu Bulu gets frozen yet again. It has to thaw out, but no, it stays frozen. Oh, not like this, Markus. No.
Ryuzaburo's luck is incredible. Maybe he should keep relying on these freezes because it's working for him, and it's working very well.
I mean, when you throw out that many Blizzards and Ice-type attacks, something is bound to get frozen. Unfortunately for Markus, it just happens to be this Tapu Bulu, so this Tapu Bulu is, it's chilly. It's just chilling out right now.
It's chilling out a little bit too much. Raichu will be the last Pokemon that Ryuzaburo sends out onto the field. Since Raichu and Raichu's the only Pokemon that has its Fake Out available to it right now, it's probably more than happy to Fake Out that Persian and hope that Ninetales is able to knock it out with a Blizzard before there's another parting shot.
Here comes that Fake Out in that Persian slot. We do see Raichu have the Life Orb. Persian flinches, cannot move. Ninetales goes for another Blizzard. That should be enough to get the KO on that Persian. Tapu Bulu hangs on. Here we go. Just one more. You got to thaw out. You got to thaw out.
Oh, it gets
out.
the thaw
Gets the
with
Horn
the Horn Leech into the Ninetales. Doesn't knock it out, though. Instead, will heal its health back almost up to above half, and it's down to just this Raichu and this Ninetales versus the +1 attack, +1 defense Tapu Bulu.
Yeah, but still, it's going to be close. This Ninetales has the upper hand. Again, that Aurora Veil from turns prior just paying off huge dividends, allowing that Ninetales to survive. Of course, it could also be carrying that Focus Sash, which was not broken. Here it goes. The grass disappears from the field. It's going to be a full power Blizzard, so it's going to be doing more damage. It's going to be doing single target damage. So you maybe try to stall out the Hail?
I don't know. I mean, we know that Tapu Bulu has Protect, so I think stalling out the Hail or even just stalling out the Aurora Veil is probably your best option in this situation, but we don't know what this Raichu has. If Tapu Bulu had gone for Protect here and Raichu had Encore, that would have been the end of the game. Instead, it looks like a Psychic and... Oh.
Psychic, and now Tapu Bulu gets to eat away at its berry. Going to go back away out of Blizzard Rain, hopefully for Markus here for this round. Tapu Bulu doesn't get KO'd. Tapu Bulu goes for a Horn Leech here, going to connect onto Raichu, needs to get the KO here and heal back. It does do enough to get the KO on that Raichu, and now just has to survive either a Freeze Dry or another Blizzard. Probably Protect, stall out that Blizzard. Yep. Oh, no, you don't even have to Protect. You just got to survive this Freeze Dry right here. We might be going to game 3 depending on how this damage goes.
I don't know. This is so close. It's so exciting. I think it's safe to assume that any hit from the Tapu Bulu onto the Ninetales this turn will be enough to knock it out. So do you go for Blizzard? And
no! Tapu Bulu misses! Tapu Bulu dodges the attack. Now the Horn Leech connects on Ninetales, and we are going to game 3 with just about 10 minutes left on this clock.
Oh, that's been so exciting.
Markus Stadter pulling it out. Tapu Bulu thawing out right when he needs. I think this is scripted.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised given how exciting these games have been, but it must be a relief for Markus to have Tapu Bulu be able to thaw out in time this time around. You know, when you're playing on such a huge stage for the World Championships, you really don't want to see multiple freezes, multiple flinches show up in games, but hey, if you're able to thaw out in time, it's almost like the freeze never happened, right?
You took a lot of damage there, but still, you know, your support Pokemon Persian got KO'd. But, you know, Tapu Bulu coming in clutch for Markus right there. And now coming into game 3. You know, that was a lot of information revealed for Markus here. Ryuzaburo, you know, really surprised me with that speed swap right there. Gonna, you know, give any Pokemon that speed boost. Like, that Snorlax was fast.
That Snorlax was fast, and that Snorlax had Rock Slide, which made it even more terrifying. I want to learn a lot more about this Raichu, though. We know it has Life Orb, so it's not going to be relying on its exclusive Z move. We know that it has Fake Out and Psychic, but we don't know what that last move is. I don't know if it'll make as much of a difference moving forward in this game because, you know, Psychic can't deal damage to Dark-type Pokemon, and Persian is a Dark-type Pokemon. But Ryuzaburo, that Persian still was the Pokemon, I think, that just gave him so much trouble. If it wasn't for those special attack drops on that Ninetales, it would have been able to knock out the Tapu Bulu so much sooner and just given him, I think, a smoother ride into the end of that game. So it's going to be interesting to see how Markus decides to play this moving forwards. We've seen him lead that Persian in both of these games alongside that Gyarados. So if Ryuzaburo thinks that it's going to happen for a third time and plays accordingly, it could be possible for him to clean this up very quickly. If I were him, I think I would try to save that Ninetales for a little bit later on in the game. Don't put it in the spot where you have to worry about it getting its special attack dropped, and just hope that it can come in and clean up.
I think one thing that Ryuzaburo needs to do is definitely try to KO that Tapu Bulu much faster. Because that Tapu Bulu, setting up with one bulk up, just does so much damage. Of course, that Aurora Veil from that Ninetales finally coming out, you know, really helped pay dividends. And of course, also made the game very close because that Ninetales was able to hang on for sure with that Horn Leech, boosted Horn Leech.
Well, Ninetales is certainly taking the charge here with Tapu Koko as the lead, and Markus finally switching up his lead as well. Yep,
now going to go with a Alolan Marowak and a Alolan Persian versus the Ninetales and the Tapu Koko over on Ryuzaburo's side. The Electric Train does take effect, and of course, Ninetales going to go ahead and bring out that Snow Warning. Going to make it Hail.
This is the first time we've seen the Tapu Koko on Ryuzaburo's side of the field. We know a little bit about this Marowak and the Alolan Persian. I think we know a lot about. So if I were Markus, I'd be looking to possibly just knock out the Ninetales. Alolan Marowak is certainly capable of doing so with a Fire-type attack or really any attack. paired with a fake out to stop that Aurora Veil. But that really leaves Tapu Koko in an interesting spot. It can't use any of its electric attacks thanks to the Lightning Rod ability that Marowak has, but it can still use Dazzling Gleam if it has that. And Dazzling Gleam is something that Persian, it can survive 1, maybe 2 of those, but you don't want it to be sticking around taking so much chip damage like that.
Tapu Koko forced to switch out, going to switch into Garchomp here to have a slightly better matchup against the Marowak. Now Ninetales protects itself, wanting to keep its Focus Sash intact if it is carrying it. Persian going for a parting shot, hitting in that Garchomp slot, going to go ahead and drop its attack stat. And now Markus can react to that Garchomp coming in, maybe deal a little bit better, maybe something that can...
Intimidate, I think?
Intimidate it, or like maybe just KO it outright possibly.
Or get rid of the terrain.
Or even Tapu Bulu to allow the... to really mitigate the amount of damage that Earthquake will be doing.
Yes, it looks like Markus is taking his time thinking. You know, there's advantages to both, right? On the one hand, if you intimidate the Garchomp, all of its moves will be weaker. But if you bring the Tapu Bulu and Grassy Surge, get that grassy terrain up, you weaken Earthquake, and you also will heal your own Pokemon slightly every turn.
Yep, and the Shadow Bone lands into that Ninetales Protect, not wanting to take so much recoil if that Flare Blitz did connect right there. Also, maybe possibly respecting a Focus Sash. You know, there's no point in using a Flare Blitz taking all that damage just for Ninetales to survive anyways. Alright, now Garchomp and Ninetales on the field versus Marowak and Tapu Bulu on the field on Markus' side.
It's an interesting setup. If I were Markus, I would be tempted to go for the bulk up on the Tapu Bulu, but we haven't seen this Ninetales attack the Tapu Bulu without being affected by some sort of stat drop. So I don't think it's possible for it to be knocked out in one hit, just doing some mental math here, but keeping it safe is definitely the better option right now. The terrain was what he wanted.
Yep, Tapu Bulu switches out, gonna go straight back into Persian. Marowak gonna protect here, not gonna want to get KO'd by a possible Tectonic Rage. Ninetales going for the Blizzard, gonna hit Persian on its weaker special defense side because Fur Coat only boosts its physical defense. Ooh, so much damage, about 40%. And here comes the Tectonic Rage from Ryuzaburo's Garchomp here. If it hits that Marowak slot, it will not be able to fully protect itself and will take a quarter of what it normally would.
Yes, Garchomp revealing the Z move I think is really important here for Ryuzaburo. It looks like overall he's been playing this game a lot quicker. He's focusing more on dealing damage, less on, you know, trying to set up that Snorlax with the belly drum and hope that it's enough. It almost looks like he's trying to sort of limit Markus's switching options, but Persian at just above half its health after the grassy terrain is still going to be able to keep switching around. I really want to know what Markus's 4th Pokemon is, because if it's that Intimidate, now would be the great time to send it out to weaken that Garchomp. It's already used Z move. We know it has to rely on something like Rock Slide or maybe an Earthquake, but I don't think that's going to happen this turn.
We've already seen it go for Rock Slide.
Yes, we have.
It's an option right now. So that Marowak is still kind of threatened by the Rock Slide. Of course, you know, if there's a Rock Slide, there's always a way because of that flinch chance. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of an interesting spot that Ryuzaburo has put himself in. He really needs to keep sort of relying a little bit more on luck than I think some trainers like to do. And if that works out for him, we'll see. Yep,
there goes a foul play in that Garchomp slot, doing about 35%. And the Freeze Dry hits that Persian, almost gets KO, but it hangs on. Of course, this Rock Slide should be able to pick up the KO from there. And Marowak still gets to move here. Going to be able to go for yet another attack. And, you know, the pivot on Markus' team, that parting shot, unfortunately gets KO'd. Shadow Bone here hits that Garchomp, and that should not be the KO because Garchomp hangs on with just a sliver of health. So a pretty bulky Garchomp.
A pretty bulky Garchomp, and I don't think that's something that Markus was prepared for. You know, he's a very experienced player, and I think he would have probably gone with another parting shot either into the Tapu Bulu or into presumably a Gyarados or something with Intimidate if he had thought that maybe the Persian wouldn't be able to knock it out. But with Lucario, that's certainly an interesting adjustment. You know, Ninetales is weak to Steel-type attacks. Lucario is known to have moves like Bullet Punch, or even just a fighting move might be great here. So could have just been Markus deciding, you know, I have relied on Persian a lot in the past, but I don't want to be playing such a switch-heavy game. Even though I lose my Alolan Persian right now, if I can get Lucario in at full health and it can start helping me get these knockouts, maybe that's just as good as switching.
Absolutely. Lucario is a Pokemon that we don't see much in the video game championships. Again, we did see it yesterday at the World Championships in Day 1 run by American Alex Underhill. But You know, Lucario does have access to Vacuum Wave. Here we go. Is it going to be enough to get the KO on Garchomp? It does.
Oh, it barely misses.
Just a little bit, but of course, Ninetales can't really do much, and the Grassy Terrain does help with a possible Earthquake. Garchomp instead goes for a Rock Slide. Lucario does not mind those at all. Hits that Marowak and gets the KO, so now Lucario, oh, so close, so close. It will get KO'd by the Hail, because the Hail goes before the Grassy Terrain, but still, that's so unfortunate that Garchomp hung on, because that cost him Markus's Marowak.
It cost him his Marowak, and it cost him his Lightning Rod. We know that Ryuzaburo has that Tapu Koko in the back, and with Vacuum Wave as Lucario's priority type move, it doesn't seem like someone would run both Vacuum Wave and Bullet Punch into this game. So Tapu Koko can come out, not be threatened at all by the Lucario, and it will change the terrain, I believe, because it will be sent out.
Yeah, 5 more turns of Grassy Terrain, pretty much. That's
actually, that's what's going to happen. So won't benefit from the terrain, but still will have the benefit of being fast alongside that Ninetales, who definitely threatens that Tapu Bulu. Markus is in a really tight spot.
Yep, and time is actually also winding down right now, so Markus is going to have to try to pick up as many KOs as possible. You know, you want to try to even the score, also do as much damage as possible. Tapu Koko using Dazzling Gleam here, going to connect on both Pokemon. Hits Lucario for a lot of damage, but of course, Lucario going to go ahead and munch away on its berry. So many berries on Markus's team, it's like he's a harvester. Tails using Blizzard, going to connect onto Lucario and Tapu Bulu, but Tapu Bulu hangs on. Is it going to be eating his berry? Going to be close. It does eat on its berry, and now this Tapu Bulu can get the KO on either the Ninetales or even that Tapu Koko. Well, it will be doing a lot of damage regardless. Here's the close combat, hits that Ninetales, but only doing about 60%. Going to drop the defenses, which is unfortunate because now you want to keep as many Pokemon on the field as possible. Tapu Bulu going for that Horn Leech, hitting that Ninetales, gets the KO, and now the score is 2 Pokemon each.
It's 2 Pokemon each, but we know Tapu Koko will be faster than that Lucario, and it has Dazzling Gleam, so unfortunately for that Lucario, it's going to be close with the health recovery from the Grassy Terrain, but it's essentially knocked out at this point in time. That Tapu Bulu, though, will still be sticking around. It'll benefit from the Grassy Terrain. I think the big question is how much damage can it do to the Tapu Koko, and what is Ryuzaburo's last Pokemon? It's going to be that Raichu, so we have a turn of Fake Out here, faking out the Tapu Bulu, trying to knock out the Lucario, and then hoping that the combination of Raichu and Tapu Koko can win this game for Ryuzaburo is probably what he's going to be counting on. So Markus really has to spend a lot of time thinking to figure this out, and it looks like time has gone to 0.
Yep, and this, I believe, it should be either turn 0 or turn 1 coming in. So this is going to be, 3 more turns of play, and this is going to come down to who can preserve their Pokemon the best. And this is always the most intense part. Lucario, of course, has to protect, does not want to get KO'd. Horn Leech has to KO the Tapu Koko, but instead Tapu Bulu also protects. So just kind of stalling out 1 turn here.
A very safe play by Markus.
You have to watch out for that Fake Out, that's right. All right, here we go. Dazzling Gleam from Tapu Koko. Now this is going to be close. We got 2 more turns.
You know, it's interesting that both Markus and Barris on the first turn of the final 3 turns in this game, or in their games, I should say, both used Protect. I think it's a really strong play by these very established players, you know, trying to figure out, well, how is my opponent going to play into these final 3 turns and sort of build your response around that. Raichu revealing the Fake Out into the Tapu Bulu might not be that much information, but I think the fact that Markus can count on the Tapu Koko using Dazzling Gleam once again with the additional health from the Grassy Terrain means that I think Ryuzaburo has to pick a Pokemon he wants to target. And why not have Markus make that decision for him?
Can't target anything if you're getting redirected with Follow Me. Dazzling Gleam comes out. Lucario does get KO'd, and that is unfortunate. That Follow Me essentially goes to waste. Raichu going for the Psychic here. It is going to hit that Tapu Bulu, boosted by that Life Orb, doing some damage here. Now Tapu Bulu gets the choice of what it wants to hit. Tapu Bulu now boosted by the Grassy Terrain, hits that Raichu, gets the KO easily. Now Tapu Bulu heals back up. There is going to be 1 turn left, but right now Markus's Pokemon is damaged. Tapu Koko is at full health, and now it's going to be the last turn.
Oh, this is so close. If Ryuzaburo has Protect here, it's possible that just the act of protecting his Tapu Koko and hoping that his team has more health overall will be the thing to win him this game.
No,
but
no Protect. That's
going for the attack.
Tapu Bulu hangs on. Is the health it recovers going to be enough to bypass that damage done to Tapu Koko. It looks like it should be now. It's going to come down to calculation. So the way tiebreakers work is going to be based on first tiebreaker's Pokemon. Second tiebreaker, it's going to be the amount of the percentage of hit points of your total team. So all 4 Pokemon count even though they're knocked out. And then after that, it comes down to, well, total number of hit points. And then after that, it becomes a real tie. But honestly, if that were to happen, that'd be amazing. Your team would have to be trained exactly the same.
I don't know. I don't think we'll be seeing the tiebreaker progress that far in this game because we know that these trainers are running such different teams, and Marcus's team seems very bulky overall, but that could work against him because if you have more health points total and you're going for the, percentage of health points, that might make your percentage lower, even though it looks like the Tapu Bulu has more health than the Tapu Koko on the screen right now.
Yeah, and we're pretty much in map resolution right now. Both players still extending their hand, still waiting for the call here from the floor to see who exactly wins. It's a lot of math, and we'll update you once we find out the result. And I am so excited because that was so close. Oh, Marcus pulled it out just at the end. I think he has more health. I think he has more hit points.
I mean, unfortunately, I don't have a calculator with me behind the desk, so your guess is as good as mine. We'll just have to wait and see. I mean, that's what our judges do best. They're here for these situations where games go down to time. You have your 3 turns, and all right, well, we just got to figure this out on paper.
Yeah, and, going into, I guess, the analysis right now, while we wait for the resolution, game 1, Marcus had it packaged to him, but then that freeze just hurt so much because that Tapu Bulu could not thaw out.
Yeah, and we saw a little bit of that even in game 2. Just Marcus getting incredibly unfortunate luck throughout both those games. I think it was kind of a miracle that we didn't see Rockslide flinch more overall.
Yep.
Because it certainly looked like Ryuzaburo was going for it with all those flinches, potential for flinches, all those Rockslides, the fast Snorlax.
Speed swap?
Yeah, speed swap was hype.
Yeah, no, it was super hype. Like I said, you've heard of speed creep. You train your Pokemon just to be 1 point faster, but hey, let's do this, right? I know that a lot of players are opting for faster Snorlaxes, but this one was a bit much. This one was a bit much for me.
This was the extremely fast
Snorlax. Super fast.
Yeah, but
it's training for a marathon pretty much.
No, but marathons aren't about speed, they're about the distance. Which, given how bulky Snorlax is, maybe it does a little bit of both. It does, trains for the 500 meter, and then it trains for the, 26 miles.
All right, well, maybe
they're basically the same.
Maybe it's more about the sprint here. How about
that?
Or, trying to break the world record of marathon running. And again, it all comes down to the math of it. Again, first tiebreaker is number of Pokemon. Second tiebreaker is going to be the percentage of hit points of all your Pokemon combined that are remaining. And then the last one is actual number. And then it becomes a tie.
Yeah, I find it incredible that, we've only had 2 rounds on stream so far today, and both rounds have essentially gone to time.
And it looks like Marcus gave the thumbs up. I'm still waiting for confirmation just to make sure. And it looks like we might be explaining right now to Ryuzaburo about exactly what happened, and I believe it is going to be Marcus. Well, I'm still waiting to stand by.
So we're not going into sudden death, considering that everybody at the table is standing up. So.
Yeah, I don't think it hit third tiebreaker.
Yeah.
All right, here it is. I feel like I'm announcing a winner of some sort with an envelope.
Well, I mean, you kind of are.
Yeah. All right. Well, the winner of that past match. I don't think they can even hear